But of course, since our program is food science and technology, so we are learning for this particular color analysis as part of apa tu uh, the objective measurement for this particular analysis. Later I will explain to you what does it mean by objective measurement. Alright, and then describe color systems in food. We have several color systems in measuring food products. But I guess one of the method is being missed out in this particular apa tu lecture notes, but I will brief you a bit about that one since it is not covered in your lecture notes. So it's just a matter for your general information. Because if let's say later you are going to work in oil industry, for example, palm oil industry, so you are going to um, need to use one more color system. Okay, and then explain the measurement of color in food. All right, so we have two types of measurement. One is by subjective measurement and the other one is by objective measurement. All right, now we move on to chapter content. So the first one, we are going to cover for the definition and importance of color for food quality control, as well as color system in food, followed by the measurement of color in food. So the chapter is a very, it's not that long. So hopefully we are able to complete this particular chapter by today. So by this week, we have covered all chapters for food quality control. All right, so we move on to definition and importance of color. So what does it mean by color? Color basically is the characteristics of human, whereby it is being perceived by visual perception. Okay, if you are having, if an individual is having a problem with the color perception, then that particular person cannot be used as part of the panelists to evaluate the color of the product. All right, so for visual perception, basically we are having several categories whereby we are, the eyes, it can perceive the color of red, orange, yellow, green, blue, or purple. Perception of color is derived from the stimulation of cone cells in the human eye by electromagnetic radiation in the spectrum of light. Okay, when we want to see color, of course, we need to have a light source. So that particular light source, it is the radiation source that is going to pass through, or it going to be radiated on the surface of the product, and then only we are able to see the color of that particular product. And the source of light also play an important role in order to give the specific perception of that particular color. Okay, for color categories and physical specification of color are associated with objects through the wavelength of the light that is reflected from them. So, okay, on your left-hand side, you have the graph whereby you have the magnetic field, electric field, and the wavelength. Okay, different color, they have different wavelength. You have learned about rainbow colors. Each rainbow colors, they have their own specific wavelength. For example, for red color, they have their own specific wavelength compared to blue color. So that's why when you see a product that is a red color, meaning that you see that particular product on a specific wavelength. Whereby the other color, meaning that when the light pass through on that, when it touch the surface of that particular product, so that radiation of light, if let's say the product is a red color, so the light will be apa tu? It will be some of them will be absorbed and some of them will be reflected. Okay, so the light that is being reflected is the red wavelength, meaning that it is not being absorbed by that particular surface. So that one you have learned in your food analysis kan. Some of the wavelength, they are being reflected, some of them are being absorbed, some of them is being there are several terms kan for the color when you want to see the color. Right, so the reflection is governed by the object's physical properties such as light absorption, the emission spectra, and etc. I'm not sure whether this one it has covered. The same thing goes when you have a red color surface. When the light is reflected, meaning that you are going to see the product that is red because the wavelength of the light is being reflected. Okay, but then, however, the surface material of that particular product also play an important role. Okay, if let's say the surface is smooth surface, then you will have no problem in terms of perceiving that particular color. But then if let's say that particular product is having a rough surface, then the color perception will be different. All right. So there are three things that are required in the presence of color. So the first one, you need to have the light source. The second one will be the object, and the third one will be the observer. Observer will be the human. Uh, okay. So basically, light source. We have two types of light source. We have this one for your information saja, because this is not covered in your lecture notes. I'm not sure why. Okay, so for the light source, we have one is incandescence, and the other one is luminescence. Okay, incandescence is whereby the light source is from the bulb, whereby luminescence, this one is from the radiation. Okay, so for example, if let's say you have the fluorescence color of the product, so that one is because we have the luminescence of from that particular product. All right, and then in terms of the object, in terms of the color of the object, in terms of the surface of the object, as well as the shape of the project, as well as the shape of the object, the color perception of the object, if let's say they are round shape versus with rectangular shape, they are different. Right. So for example, if let's say you want to measure the color of an apple it has almost like oval shape. So when you want to perceive that color, it can be a different perceiving of color compared to when the product is square. So another example is that if you notice, in Japan, they have a mold, certain fruits. For example, apa tu? Watermelon. They mold the watermelon. Instead of watermelon is having a round shape, they mold it to become a rectangular shape. So when this one is because why they want to have that particular shape is because one is unique and the other one is for the storage purposes, and the other one is because it is apa tu uh, having a better handling for them to perceive the color, okay, to have a consistency of color for that particular product. All right, and then observer will be the human. Of course, if let's say some of the individuals they have this apa tu color blind. So if let's say that particular individuals is having a color blind issue, then that particular person should be excluded from apa tu doing any analysis relating to visual measurement by using human. Okay, but then if let's say you are using equipment ataupun instrument, then that one that particular problem is not going to be an issue. Okay. Now we move on to visible light spectrum. So visible light spectrum, they have their own wavelength. Right, it start off from red until to violet. So this one is basically rainbow colors. So we have from 700 nanometer up until to 400 nanometer. So this one is how the light is passing through the product, the surface of the product, and some of them will be reflected. So those that is being reflected is the color of that particular product that we are able to see with our eyes. So electromagnetic radiation is characterized by its wavelength as well as the intensity. The intensity of the color tu contohnya if let's say you are looking at the product that is having a dark red versus a light red, so they have different wavelength as well. When the wavelength is within the visible spectrum, it is known as visible light. So for white light is called as polychromatic light, where it have all wavelength, meaning that all wavelength are being reflected when it touch the surface. But then if let's say you have a black surface, so all wavelength are being absorbed, so that's why you can see the product is black. So why it is important? To have color measurement for food quality control? Okay, when we talk about color measurement, we have two types of color measurement. One is subjective measurement. The other one is objective measurement. Okay, when we talk about subjective measurement is whereby the color is being perceived by human, meaning that the human look at the product and they will give the feedback about the color of the product. But then when we talk about objective measurement is whereby you are using equipment or instrument in order to measure a certain set of parameter. For example, in our chapter now, we are talking about color. So when you are talking about objective measurement of color, so meaning you are going to use either the instrument that supposed to measure color, for example, chromameter or spectrophotometer. Alright, so why color is important for food quality control, especially in the industry? Okay, first and foremost, and the most important thing is because we want to ensure that the uniformity of color in terms of the consistency of the color for the production as well as to standardization. So if you can recall, in previous chapter, I have mentioned to you in production floor, for the worker, they need to have a standard color. They need to know what will be the standard color that is considered as acceptable, what will be the standard color that is considered as not acceptable. So how do we do that? Okay, so the first thing is whereby we can teach them, we can share with them in terms of the product itself by physically showing them, okay, this type of shape, this type of color is considered as acceptable, this kind of color, this type of shape is considered as unacceptable. So that one is a physical interaction. Another method is whereby we can take picture of the product in terms of the color as well as the shape of the product, and then we can paste at the production area to that particular color of the product, and then from there they can compare, okay, whether that particular product that is coming out in the production floor, whether it is considered as acceptable or not acceptable. Okay, so that one is physical evaluation. And then another one is by using instrumentation ataupun equipment. Sama juga when we talk about color measurement sama ada you pakai equipment ke ataupun you guna human, this one is considered as physical evaluation. Okay, color analysis is not chemical analysis, it is a physical analysis. Unless if you are measuring color by using spectrophotometer. Okay, that one is different. Alright, so when you use chromameter, that one is using equipment ataupun instrumentation. So by using chromameter, memang ada company pun they need to use chromameter because they want to make sure that the product that they are producing is uniform, is consistent in terms of the color. They do not want to have the variation of color. Contohnya hari ni color product tu slightly darker. Tomorrow is going to be lighter. The next day is going to be in between darker and lighter. So it is not consistent, and when the customer they purchase your product, they will have lack of confidence because your product is, the company's product is not uniform. So for them, if let's say the product is lighter contohnya, so they thought that the product is not fully baked ataupun not fully cooked. So if let's say the product is darker, so that particular product is properly is overcooked ataupun overbaked. So that goes back into the processing of the product. Alright, and then the second one, the importance of color measurement is to achieve aesthetic quality for food presentation. So the same thing goes when you have an uniform color. So you have the same, you have apa tu? The same a factor as you have an aesthetic quality for that particular food product. Alright, and then followed by performance indicator. This one, if let's say we want to decolorize of certain food product, so decolorize tu maksudnya we want to remove certain color from that particular product. This one contoh dalam oil industry, palm oil industry, cooking oil. Cooking oil, they need to do some decolorization contoh lah. So when they decolorize that particular cooking oil, the batch of that particular oil, so they can see that the performance of the decolorization process. Okay, because initially contoh if let's say you have encounter with cooking oil, especially palm oil it has several colors. For example, if you go for red palm oil color, so the color of palm oil is red. And then when you go for yang normal, the one cooking oil that we have in the market, that one is already being decolorized. Okay, and then product condition indicator in deterioration of food. So for example, if let's say the product is being processed or is being stored, so this particular color measurement, it can be an indicator for the deterioration process of that particular product. Alright, and then followed by indicate the level of refining or processing undergo in edible oil. So the same thing goes, this one is for cooking oils. Sama juga, it's not only for palm oil, other types of cooking oil, for example, olive oil, sunflower oil. So they need to have a refining process. So this one is one of the method as sama macam factor yang number 3 tu. It is the performance indicator. So level of refining ni contoh macam untuk palm oil. If you notice some of the advertisement, they said the refining process undergo with 3 refinery so that the color is very much lighter, and that one is according to what the customer and consumer perceive. Alright, and then last but not least is the content indicator to quantify fat content ataupun other colorants. Okay, it is not only for fat content, it is also can be for the colorant, addition of colorant. Okay, content indicator. Kalau untuk fat content, this one probably in terms of the color, when you bake, sometimes if let's say the fat content is too much, then it can become lighter. If it is too low, then the color will be different. Alright, now we move on to color systems for food products. For color system, basically in your lecture notes, you have two methods, which is CIE LAB Colour System. Okay, this particular CIE LAB Colour System, this one is widely used in many industries, of course with food industries. And in your lab, we have this particular chromameter also that can function to measure LAB color system. And then the second one is Munsell color system. Munsell color system, this one is almost similar like LAB, CIE LAB system. Tapi this one, it measure in terms of the saturation, in terms of the hue for that particular product. Okay, and then you have actually another, the third color system, tapi this one just for your general info saja, because this one is not being added into your lecture notes. So nanti kelas lain dapat information yang berbeza pula. Alright, so this one just for your general information is known as Lovibond tintometer. Lovibond tintometer, this one is meant for oil. Okay, the system is meant for checking the color of the oil. So regardless whether it is a petroleum oil ke ataupun cooking oil ke, they are using Lovibond tintometer. They are not using LAB color system. Okay, so we move on for CIE LAB color system. CIE LAB color system is a color space whereby it is specified by the International Commission on Illumination. It describes all the color visible to the human eye and was created to serve as a device independent model to be used as a reference. Okay, so when we talk about CIE tu stand for untuk apa? CIE tu adalah Commission International de Liquorage. Okay, that one is CIE. Tapi the one that we are interested with is LAB. Okay, kalau kamu tengok dekat situ, dekat dalam kamu punya lecture notes tu, L tu is not necessary to be star lah. Tapi kalau kamu tengok A ni dia ada star, B ni ada star. Okay, so this is the current system that we are using now. Kalau kamu nanti, if later you have the opportunity to use chromameter, basically you have two LAB. Okay, one is L A star B star, the other one is L A B without the star. Okay, but then for current usage, we are using the system of L A star B star. Okay, so that's why in your lecture notes we are talking about A star B star. Star tu penting because it is measuring. I mean the value given sama ada star ataupun tak star is slightly different, but it is not significantly different, but it's slightly different. Okay, so when we talk about L, this one it measuring lightness. So lightness dia punya value dia it range starting from 0 until 100. Kalau 0 tu maksudnya the value is black, pure black. Kenapa lambat sangat ni? Dah 10.30 dah. Dah half of my slide dah ni. Okay, so 0 meaning that it is a black, and then 100 meaning that it is pure white. So if let's say your product, contoh it's dark red, contoh. So if it is dark red, okay, so it maybe goes below than 50, contoh. Okay, because you have the word dark red. Maksudnya dia dah nak ke arah macam hitam, gelap. Okay, but then if let's say you have light red material, so you can have maybe the value of that particular lightness, L, is going around 60, 70 and above, meaning that it moved towards the 100. So kalau kamu tengok dekat sini, tak tahulah nampak ke tak. Okay, line, tengok dekat gambar bawah sebelah kiri. Okay, line yang warna hitam ni, yang I highlight dengan warna red ni, this one is the vertical line, that one is meant for the lightness. Okay, nampak Kalau white, maksudnya the value of L is 100. Dekat bawah, okay, yang vertical line ni, kalau black maksudnya is 0. So when you are measuring with chromameter later, you akan nampak sometimes the value is 20 ke. So 20 kita tahu, 20 it going down to the area of dark area. Kalau it moves up to around 60, 70, 80, meaning that is going to be lighter. The color is light. Alright, and then we go on with A star. Okay, A star dengan B star ada positive and negative value. Alright, kalau untuk lightness tak ada positive negative value. Dia hanya value dia starting from 0 until 100 saja. Okay, tapi kalau untuk A star dengan B star ada negative dan positive value. And when you want to report your value for A star and B star, you need to write down together with the negative ataupun positive punya simbol tu. Okay, because negative values it perceive different color. Positive value it perceive different color. So untuk A, contohnya if let's say you get negative 20 for example. So meaning that negative A it goes towards green region. Okay, nampak dekat sini, tengok gambar sebelah kiri bawah. Okay, this one negative area, okay, green, the region is green. And then if let's say you measure your product and you get positive A, meaning that it goes to the red region. Okay, so contohnya katalah positif 30, positive 40, positive 35 for example. So that one meaning that your product is moving towards the red region. Okay, and then we have another one whereby this one is B. Okay, for negative value untuk B, negative is blue. Okay, mana B? B is this one. Okay, negative B is a blue region. Positive B is yellow. Alright, so when you write when you get the values, so you can see that your product, for example, you get the value B, contohnya is around positive 20 ataupun positive 25. So meaning that your product is moving towards the yellow region. Okay, so basically we have this color space. Okay, on your right hand side, dekat bahagian bawah tu kita ada color space whereby we have LAB. Okay, L is the lightness, whereby dekat atas ni maksudnya is a white, bawah ni nampak 0%, this one is a black. Alright, so 50% meaning that we have the color saturation is more saturated compared to the upper part when you have the 100%. 100% tu maksudnya is white lah. Sebab you dah measure white. Remember just now I mentioned to you when you measure the wavelength, when you measure the color, wavelength that is being reflected 100% is having a white surface. Okay, tapi when you talk about 50%, so the saturation of the color is different. Alright, now we move on to Munsell color system. So Munsell color system, this one is a color space that specify color based on 3 color dimension in terms of the lightness. Lightness tu sama juga macam tadi, sama ada it is a black ataupun white. And then chroma, chroma will be the color purity. Color purity tu maksudnya whether it is red, as in red, ataupun it is a mixture of red and orange. Okay, the purity of that particular product. Hue is the color stimulus. Color stimulus tu maksudnya whether it falls under the red region ke, blue region ke, ataupun green or yellow. So that one is the hue of the color. When you talk about hue, katalah that particular product is having yellow surface, for example. So you normally when you express that product, you will have that surface of the product is having a yellow hue color. Okay, meaning that that is the color of that particular product. Okay, so for Munsell color system, this one is slightly different. Kalau kamu tengok tadi yang untuk LAB system, contoh untuk lightness, this particular lightness is denoted by the term of value. The term is value. So dia punya the range of the value is starting from 10. 10 maksudnya is white, pure white until 0. Okay, tapi kalau LAB tadi is starting from 0 until 100 kan. But then for this particular Munsell color system, it starts from 10 until 0. Alright, and then we have the chroma. Okay, chroma, this one is the horizontal part. Okay, so for chroma, it starts from 0 until 12. Okay, and then we have the hue. The hue is the rotation of the color. Okay, nampak sama ada it is belong to the red color ke, yellow ke, ataupun yellow red. Okay, this one is Munsell color system. Alright, so we move on to measurement of color in food product. So everyone believes that eye is the most reliable color measurement tools. Well, it is true for an individuals that does not have any problem in seeing any particular product. So for color measurement, they are divided into 2 segments. This one I've mentioned just now by using visual perception ataupun by using instrumentation. So when you visualize, this one is known as subjective color evaluation. It can be less accurate, standardized, and it can be biased as well, because if let's say certain individuals, they favor of that particular color of the product, so they can consider as that particular product is acceptable. But some of the individuals, if they don't favor that color of the product, the same color of that particular product, so they may perceive that color is unacceptable. Alright, so in terms of standardization, it's quite difficult to standardize by using human eyes, but it can be done. Okay, and then when we talk about instrumentation, this one is objective, so this one is a more accurate as well as it is more standardized. Okay, kalau kamu tengok dekat dalam gambar, dekat bahagian bawah sebelah kanan on your right hand side, this one is known as chromameter. Okay, this type of chromameter is widely used in the lab, in the industries, various industries. They are using this type of chromameter to measure the color of the product. Okay, so for human color perception as well as the depth ataupun the interpretation of the color, it depends on several factors such as age, umur, Okay, if let's say you are at your age, I mean adult, a young adult, your color perception will be different compared to the older generation. And then in terms of the gender, for female they are having the tendency to be more specific towards the color of the product. But then for male, basically this one, I'm not generalizing, tapi just for your general information saja, men, they have the tendency to group the color. For example, if let's say we are looking at the color is a cream yellow, so for example is a creamy white, contoh creamy white. So for men, they have the tendency to see, they perceive that particular product is either white ataupun yellow, itu saja. Okay. And then we have the, in terms of the experience, more experienced individual, they will have a better color perception compared to less experienced. So that's why I've mentioned just now, when you talk about subjective color measurement, it can be taught. Kita boleh, it can be taught to the individuals so that they have a better experience. So when they have a better experience, so their color perception will be having a better result as well. Alright, and then in terms of the environmental light exposure, okay, contoh if let's say you have the yellow bulb compared to the the fluorescence bulb, and then you have the sunlight. So this type of light source is giving different perception of the color for that particular product. So you need to make sure that when you are doing color measurement, so you need to make sure that your light source is consistent. Okay, and as much as possible, try to avoid the yellow bulb, because yellow bulb, it will give different color perception. Okay, and then last but not least will be medical condition. Medical condition, this one, for example, if let's say the individuals is having a colorblind issue versus non-colorblind issue. Alright, then we have this color measurement instrument. For color measurement instrument, we have two types. This one I've mentioned just now as well. One is chromameter. Chromameter, this one is the one that you have in your lab. It's very simple. That's why most of the industries, they are having this kind of chromameter. Chromameter tu yang gambar ni sebelah kiri on your left hand side. Okay, and then chromameter, this one, it measure the absolute color reflected by food sample. And dalam chromameter ni, they have several color system juga. But it is not being covered in your lecture notes. So dalam chromameter ni, dia ada a part of CIE LAB system. They have 3 stimulus value as well. Okay, tapi yang tu tak apalah, tak ada dalam kamu punya syllabus. Okay, and then we have spectrophotometer. For spectrophotometer, this one, it measure the spectral reflectance ataupun transmittance or relative irradiance of coloured food sample. So contohnya, if let's say you want to measure the intensity of the colour, so basically you can either check in terms of the transmittance as well as the absorptivity of that particular colour. But then when you are using spectrophotometer ni yang sebelah kanan, it will not give you value in terms of whether the colour is red ke, blue ke, yellow ke. No, it gives you a certain values in terms of the intensity ataupun in terms of the concentration for that particular compound in that particular product. Alright, so for chromameter demonstration, this one you can look into the YouTube. I have searched just now several YouTubes of how to use chromameter. Basically, this is the unit that you have. Okay, nampak saya circle dekat bahagian bawah ni. Okay, mula-mula you have this benchtop punya display unit. Okay, on your right hand side you have this particular benchtop display unit. This one is whereby your result, when it is attached together with this chromameter, ini adalah chromameter. When this chromameter is being attached with this display unit, so your result will appear on this particular screen. Alright, and when you want to measure in terms of the color, you want to calibrate the chromameter, so it can be done by pressing the button on this particular display unit. Okay, and then if you want to print out your result pun boleh, tak ada masalah. Tapi cara dia printing tu sama macam apa dekat kedai Cina tu lah yang print receipt tu. Okay, this will be your result. Back in the days when we initially received this unit, memang your senior, they all print out their result. Tapi lepas tu dah habis, kertas dah habis, ink dah habis, so UiTM they are not able, I mean they don't have the budget to buy a new one. So if let's say you want to use later, you need to record manually. Maksudnya you kena tulis lah your result. Alright, and then the one that we are using for chromameter is this particular unit. Okay, this particular unit, kalau kamu tengok dekat bahagian bawah, ini adalah light source. Okay, so what you need to do is you need to place your product as close as possible, ataupun it can be directly on that particular sensor. This one dia ada sensor and light source. So this particular sensor, it will measure the color of your product. Okay. Dekat atas ni pun ada display unit. Ada apa, display screen. So if let's say you don't attach this chromameter unit to this display unit, you still can have the readings from this particular screen. And the apa tu, color measurement still can be done by using the buttons on this particular screen. Okay, sama je. Cumanya satu screen dia kecil, satu lagi screen dia besar. That's the different thing. Okay, and then at this particular part, this one ada PowerPoint, and dekat bahagian bawah ni pun ada PowerPoint. So both of this display unit and the chromameter need to be turned on before you want to measure your color. Alright, so sekejap lagi dah nak habis dah kita punya apa ni chapter 8 ni. So can we look at the apa tu, demonstration of how this particular chromameter is take place? I mean how it is being measured. Okay, kalau kamu tengok kejap saya ulang balik dekat sini. Okay, kalau kamu tengok cara dia pegang, nampak tak? Ini kita panggil handheld chromameter. Maksudnya you pegang pakai tangan lah. There is another chromameter that is a benchtop chromameter. Benchtop chromameter tu is whereby that one is a more expensive lah. You have one light source that is attached together with the computer. Okay, lepas tu you akan letak you punya sample tu dekat atas, dia ada holder sendiri dekat situ. So when you click dekat komputer tu, nanti dia akan measure your product. So the one that you have in your lab and the one that we are looking at this particular apa tu, video, this one is known as handheld chromameter. So kalau kamu tengok dekat bahagian bawah, ini adalah light source. Nampak this particular apa tu, checker ataupun person, this one dia place the chromameter directly on the surface of the product. This one it can be done if let's say your product is solid. Maksudnya your product is not going to have an issue to goes into the sensor. Okay, sebab sensor tu dia ada lubang dia dekat situ tau, dekat dalam, dekat bahagian bawah ni dia ada lubang. Jadi kalau katalah your food product masuk dekat dalam sensor tu, nanti chromameter, the whole unit of chromameter might be broken. But this one sebab dia punya material is solid surface. Contohnya if let's say later you punya product nanti you nak check apa tu, biscuit ke ataupun those that is solid, the surface of the bread pun boleh, you can place directly on that particular product. But then if let's say your product is powdered material, semi-solid, liquid, then you cannot place your this particular sensor chromameter ni directly on the surface of the product because it might ruin the sensor. Okay, and then kalau kamu tengok this particular person, thumb dia dekat sini, and then he has this apa, other fingers that is located dekat bahagian sini. Dia pegang dekat bahagian sini. Sini is because they want to press the target in order to measure. When they tekan, when they press this particular target, so baru light source tu dia akan measure the color of your product. Okay, tak sure you all nampak ke tak nanti dia akan ada macam satu white light on the surface of this particular product. Okay, yang ini nampak kan tadi ada macam light source dia klik dekat situ. Orang ni buat laju-laju tak apalah sebab dia data is being recorded in the software. Maksudnya they have together with the computer. Tapi kalau you nak record, boleh juga you nak record laju-laju dan lepas tu you boleh write down the result of your product, of your the color measurement. Tapi you need to know when you start to measure your color, what will be the average value so that you know what is the value that you are measuring. Okay, yang ini kita tak ada yang spectrum engine ni tak ada, so I skip this particular video. If you want to look at this particular video, you can always watch in YouTube nanti. Okay, so yang ini adalah button yang available dekat atas handheld chromameter tu. Okay, kalau kamu tengok dekat gambar belakang ni, nampak tak saya punya arrow dekat saya punya screen?
Nampak.
Okay, kalau kamu tengok arrow ni adalah namanya white plate. White plate ni untuk kita nak calibrate this particular chromameter. So every time when you are the first user ataupun you first time nak sebelum you nak measure you punya sample, you need to calibrate your chromameter. Okay, you can calibrate as many as you want because this one is a very simple instrument. Dia bukan macam instrument lain whereby you need to calibrate during the initial starting of the product sekali dan lepas tu it can be run. Tak perlu calibrate dah. Tapi yang untuk chromameter ni, first time bila you pakai, calibrate. Lepas tu in between your sample, contohnya katalah you have 10 sample kan. So in between tu contohnya selepas sample kelima you nak calibrate lagi sekali. Boleh, tak ada masalah because this one is very simple. Nanti sekejap lagi I tunjuk you one more video. This one tapi orang ni dia macam Arabic sikit. He shows how to use this one. Okay, so nampak ada button warna orange, this one untuk calibration. Alright, yang ini color ni, ini untuk you nak select which color system that you are going to use. So sekarang ni yang you all belajar adalah LAB, L, A star, B star. So nanti kalau kamu nak pilih, kamu akan pilih that particular color system. They have other color system as well yang saya mention just now. Okay, kalau kamu tengok on the screen ni, yang ini PC mode. Maksudnya this particular handheld chromameter is being attached to the PC. Tapi kalau it is not being attached to the PC, kamu boleh nampak all the values dekat sini. Nanti sekejap lagi saya tunjuk. Kejap. Mana yang orang... Kejap Oh, bukan this one. Sorry. Yang ni nanti you all boleh tengok orang ni punya video juga. Okay, how they do. Okay, yang ini nampak dia letak this handheld color chromameter right on the surface of this white plate. White plate ni memang ada. Okay, ini mula-mula untuk calibration. So lepas tu dia nak measure color apple ni. Kalau kamu tengok, okay, apple it has a round shape and if you can see that this apple is having inconsistent color. Dia ada slightly yellowish color, dia ada red color and then they have the mixture of red and yellow. So that's why I've mentioned just now. Surface of the product is also important in determining the color of that particular product. Dia tak nampak apa benda yang dia tengah measure tu. Okay, tengok dia punya tangan Tapi kita punya unit tak ada yang macam ni So that's why kamu tak boleh letak directly on the surface of the product. Sebab nanti it will ruin the sensor. Okay, bila nak check. Okay, nampak finger dia press dekat situ, dekat sini. Okay, so nanti nampak reading. Okay, so that reading yang kamu akan record nanti.
Positif lebih ke arah.
Okay, so itu je lah demonstrationnya. If you have later nanti opportunity to use this chromameter, boleh gunalah, boleh try. Silap pula dah. Okay, so chapter learning outcome check. This one you need to answer by yourself. Can you state the definition and importance of color in food quality control? Then you should be able to describe color system. So in your syllabus, you have two types of color system. One in CIE LAB, L star, A star, B star. Okay, and then you have the Munsell color system. Alright, and then the measurement of color in food. Explain the color measurement. This one is by using the chromameter. Alright, so that's the end of the chapter 8. Okay, so do you have any question related to this particular chapter?
Yes.
Okay.
Madam. Apa saya nak tanyakan, the objective of the nak tahu ni is nak tahu dia punya uniformity of the product punya colour kan. So let's say kalau macam produk tu dia tak ada uniformity, so maksudnya produk tu kena reject ke apa?
Tak uniform tu maksudnya macam mana? Macam you tengok yang colour apple tadi tu Okay, yang macam colour apple tu, it goes back to the industry. Okay, kalau macam certain industry, contoh if let's say the colour of that particular apple is having a mixture of the colour, so probably that particular apple is not fully matured. It's not fully ripened. So they all kena come out with colour standardization. What will be the colour that is considered as acceptable to be marketed, what will be the colour that is considered as unacceptable. So that's why I mentioned just now, normally bila kita nak buat colour measurement, it will go with both ways. Kita akan pakai instrumentation as well as kita akan pakai human perception. Okay, sebab when you have instrumentation, you need to have a range of values for that particular product to be considered as acceptable. Kalau kamu tak ada range of that particular value, then macam mana kamu nak tahu produk tu acceptable ataupun tak acceptable? So in order for you to get that range of the value, first you need to set up that particular range by having several colours of product. Okay, several colours of product. Then from there kamu measure and that particular group, that particular product tu kamu kena groupkan whether this particular colour is considered acceptable ataupun not acceptable. Okay?
Okay, faham. Thank you, madam.
Alright. Yang lain ada tak? this particular chromameter ni is not only for food industry saja, it is a widely used untuk oil industries, untuk paint industry, paper and pulp, and other industries. Especially kalau untuk paint memang they need to have this particular specific value of LAB ataupun tristimulus value ataupun the hue, the chroma. So they need to have exact values for each color of the paint that they are producing. So the same thing goes for food product as well. Cumanya food product ni kita ada macam a bit limitation is whereby some of the food product they don't have an even shape. So that's why you need to have that range of acceptable values and not acceptable values. And the same thing goes apa-apa pun, whether you have instrument untuk measure colour, you still need to have human visualization to perceive whether that particular product is considered as acceptable ataupun not acceptable. Okay, because some industry, jangan surprise if you go to food industry, if let's say they are not really, although they are big industries pun, they will not have chromameter. They will rely on human perception to consider whether that particular product is acceptable or not acceptable. So if you join that company, maybe you can suggest to your company later whether you they want to purchase the chromameter ataupun tak. Okay, ada lagi soalan tak?
Tak ada kot. Tak ada kot.
Okay, so kita dah habis. We have 8 chapters je kan? Okay, so kita dah habis covered all syllabus for food quality control. You have done your test 1 and you are going to have your another test, your final test, as well as you need to submit your assignment. Untuk you punya lab report, maybe you kena submit kan lab report, but that one goes to your respective lecturer. Okay, so please study for your test nanti, coming test, and your lab report please submit your lab report. Your rubric, please remind me by this week. I try my best to give the rubric for your assignment, video assignment, because I need to come out with the rubric. Okay, so since you have no more further question, don't forget to fill up attendance form dalam Google Classroom, and that's it. I'll keep in touch with you using WhatsApp ke apa ke. If you want to have a meeting, you can let me know if you want to have a meeting. Alright, so thank you very much for your participation. Thank you very much for your cooperation. I'll see you when I see you. Okay, thank you.
Okay,
madam. Thank you, madam.
Okay, bye.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you, madam.